Welcome to the Grand Theft World podcast, hosted and sponsored by GrandTheftWorld.com. It's February 20th, 2022. This is episode 68. This is the Bay of Rigs. It's been a chilling effect past week. I'm not just talking about the snow in Canada. I'm talking about the fact they're freezing people's bank accounts.
So what is going on? What are all these tweets about, Jimmy? I'll tell you. Canada, Trudeau invokes emergency powers. I was told they're emergency wartime powers. That's what I first read. Invokes emergency powers in a bid to end the protests. So the protest is working, and the oligarchy is shitting their pants, and they don't know what to do. So now they're doing things that they accused only Trump would do.
There's a lot of things we're going to cover tonight. We have a long show list. We're going to cover clips from the Nuremberg 2.0 public grand jury. Some fascinating information coming out on day 2 as to the history behind this COVID pandemic.
I think is important to point out is that the history academic at Georgetown University, Carroll Quigley, that's Carroll Quigley, who was the tutor of Bill Clinton, among others, wrote quite frankly in his book, Tragedy and Hope, A History of the World in Our Time, that there have been 4 industrial revolutions. Yes, that familiar language coming from the World Economic Forum was being written about in the 1960s already by Quigley. And we will not understand it unless we see that the perspective which is being assumed here is that of who owns the population, first in Britain and then in the British Empire. In the first revolution, the ownership of land, of agricultural means, provides wealth. Then there is a mechanical industrial revolution, a second revolution, then one in which financial capital dominates the world. And it's from this period around 1870 onwards that the smart money in the City of London realizes that even that bubble is going to burst, and that the really important way to own the world in future will be to own the minds and the productivity and the thoughts of those in the model to stop them running away and outproducing their bosses.
I also got to speak in ANARCHAPULCO this past week. I did a virtual presentation that has now been leaked to the public. In today's presentation, we're going to see a lot of things that I couldn't do from stage. If I was there in person, which I'm sorry I can't be, I got a schedule conflict. If I was there in person, you couldn't see all the things I'm about to show you. And first, let's have a little talk and set the stage, as it were, for this concept of the individual surviving and thriving amidst a world of ever-growing tyranny. Let's learn more. All right, I promised you something different. I've never done this before at any of the other presentations or talks that I've given. This is my workspace. This is where I answer email. This is where I edit video. This is where I record some audio. This is where I do tutorials. But this is also where I keep some of these books here that are the good individual parts that one needs to start formulating a coherent understanding not only of the problem, but something that leads us toward the solutions in life. So let's check them out. We're going to have a clip of that later. We've got the, Epstein didn't kill himself, and McAfee didn't kill himself, and Ghislaine didn't kill herself yet. But apparently, Jean-Luc Brunel killed himself. He hung himself in a prison cell where the cameras malfunctioned. Now, I know you think you've heard this before, but it's a completely legit story. It's being covered everywhere. There's nothing to see here.
We have the shocking news coming in of Hollywood establishment-connected modeling mogul Jean-Luc Brunel's demise. A man connected to, of course, Mr. Epstein, a lot of celebrities, the intelligence agencies, was found dead in his jail cell, where magically, once again, surveillance cameras stopped working, and he allegedly offed himself as he was facing a criminal court case surrounding the larger international trafficking extortion operation he was a part of with Mr. Jeffrey Epstein. Jean-Luc Brunel was known as an individual that was procuring the small children to Jeffrey Epstein so Jeffrey Epstein could sell them to the people, the powerful people he used to hang out with. Jeffrey Epstein is even on record saying that Jean-Luc Brunel provided him over 1,000 children, part of the this larger intelligence operation that had, of course, a lot of powerful people hurting these children in Jeffrey Epstein's mansions, where, of course, he had secret cameras recording everything. Those tapes were dumbfoundingly lost by the FBI and can't be found, even though they had FBI labels on them before. Even according to the Daily Mail, Jean-Luc Brunel partied with Jack Nicholson, Leonardo DiCaprio. Now, is there any sadness that this man lost his life? No. The true crime here is the fact that he will not be standing trial, and the many things he knew about very powerful people that are still walking the streets free are, of course, going to be buried with him, as, of course, this was a man connected to very powerful people that were committing some of the worst horrible atrocities on the face of this earth. Now, with this man's passing, so does the chance of any kind of real justice, accountability, when it comes to the extremely powerful people in our society that did the unspeakable. Again, the prison that Jean-Luc Brunel was in a high-security prison. For there to be no surveillance footage, for there to be no accountability for the jail here, for there to be a major Prince Andrew deal that just happened, highlights an extremely terrifying situation, showing you how desperate a lot of powerful people are in order to, of course, prevent you from knowing the true scope of reality of what your government is doing with your taxes.
Prince Andrew settled with Giuffre.
Of course, the man that doesn't sweat just settled $10 million from someone he claims he never met. A very peculiar case that, of course, highlights some of the most sinister, horrible, unaccountable, messed up actions that are committed by some of the most powerful people in our lives.
And there's everything's taken care of. All the loose ends have been taken care of, I think, except for Ghislaine still waiting for her appeal. Also coming up, Canadian history. The Canadian protests that we talked about last week, they turned violent. They turned violent this past week. It wasn't the protesters with the bouncy houses that turned it violent. There's a lot of clips circulating.
Wow, what is this lady doing? Trampling horses, shoveling. Stop it! Stop it! What? Oh my God! They just trampled this lady. They just trampled that lady. They just fully trampled that lady.
Also, the World Economic Forum agenda penetrating the Trudeau administration in a very open way, to the point that you not only have Klaus Schwab talking about it, now you've got members of parliament asking questions about it.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I listened to my colleague's speech. I had a constituent that wanted me to ask a question about outside interference to our democracy. Klaus Schwab is the head of the World Economic Forum, and he bragged how his subversive WEF, World Economic Forum, has, quoted, infiltrated governments around the world. He said that his organization had penetrated more than half of Canada's cabinet. And I was wondering, in the interest of transparency, could the member please name which cabinet ministers are on board with the WEF's agenda? My concern is the deputy.
Order. I know he was. I know that the member was in a really good question there, but the audio is really bad, and the video is really bad as well. And I apologize. I don't know if the member. Okay, let's try again. The honourable member for Timmins James Bay.
Mr. Speaker, that member is promoting open disinformation. That's not debate. We have to call out disinformation.
And then last but not least, one of the other clips I wanted to mention up front was a leaked clip. I guess it's a lost clip. Justin Trudeau and his oath of fealty to the Queen as part of her Privy Council.
Mr. Justin J.P. Trudeau.
I, Justin P.J. Trudeau, do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, Queen of Canada, her heirs and successors. So help me God. I, Justin P.J. Trudeau, do solemnly and sincerely swear that I shall be a true and faithful servant to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II as a member of Her Majesty's Privy Council for Canada. I will, in all things to be treated, debated, and resolved in Privy Council, faithfully, honestly, and truly declare my mind and my opinion. I shall keep secret all matters committed and revealed to me in this capacity, or that shall be secretly treated of in council. Generally, in all things, I shall do as a faithful and true servant ought to do for Her Majesty, so help me God.
So tonight, we are not going to go to Luke Ranowski as our first story. Well, it'll be the first story, but it's not going to be the first clip. First clip we're going to go to is a reenactment of some famous words by Patrick Henry. And this case tonight, it's being brought to you by former Navy SEAL Jocko Willink. Let's kick it off.
Why stand we here idle? What is it that we gentlemen wish? What would they have? Is life so dear or peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery? Forbid it, Almighty God. I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death.
Ready for something crazy? If you spent time in the standard American school system from kindergarten through high school, you've spent 15,000 hours of your precious life in a classroom. Shocking. But yet, look at where we're at. Many of us feel totally ill-equipped to function in this crazy, overwhelming, hyper-competitive world. We get anxiety at the prospect of adulting, and entrepreneurship totally just feels like a pipe dream. This is the thing. I found a resource that has made the hugest world of difference for me and my journey of confidence, self-reliance, and success in an unpredictable world. It's called 19 Skills for Success That School Never Taught You. It's a free resource that I consider to be totally priceless and has taught me many of the skills I need to know to be flexible and to succeed in a world full of uncertainty. Who knows what the next few years could bring? I believe that you were made for more. And if you could succeed without these tools for self-reliance, wouldn't you have done it already?